businesses. There was also another manager who said that it was about 25% down, many more takeout orders, but lots of negativity across the board. And you know what they were saying last night was a lot of these restaurant like bar places. How'd it go when they had to check the vac status? Well, we're getting Mo from Moses on to talk about that in a little bit, but first let's head right back into the KUAM News Zoom room where we have joining us the acting fire chief, Joyce Nicholas. Good morning, Chief.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, definitely a part of the puzzle that we've been missing. We'll just get right into it. Is we're now week 4 of this surge, where we've just seen, again, over 3 weeks of double-digit positive cases. And we're not talking like 10. We're talking like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 90, 100, right? And so when you see that many positives and such a huge increase in the community, that means that first responders are probably overwhelmed. The Guam Fire Department, of course, right there on the front lines. Chief, so can you give us the status? Is GFD overwhelmed with this COVID response right now?
Well, I will tell you that, for the past 4 weeks or so, there definitely has been an uptick in COVID-19 responses. We track it on a daily, and we send those reports in, but for sure, we are being challenged with the resources that we do have. Our guys are working shorthanded as it is already. We've experienced a lot of turnover, but they remain motivated. They still come in when we need them to come in, and we just continue to do what we do. Like you said, we've been in it since the beginning, way in the beginning, and fortunately, we were proactive with our policies and in our efforts to protect our employees and also keeping in mind their family members, right? So we want to make sure that we can keep our employees coming to work and responding to the people.
Do you have a daily average for the past 4 weeks on how many of the runs that you guys are doing are COVID related?
So we classify our COVID responses in 3 categories. The first one is PUI, patient under investigation, surveillance cases, and then, of course, COVID positive, where we know for sure that they are COVID positive, whether it's by history or if we're able to get a test on them right away. So the average, we average about, I wouldn't say 30 to 50 runs a day. And out of that, between the 3 categories, we're averaging somewhere between 11 to 15 total. And mind you, this is just, based on history, whether they've had recent travel or recent contact. And that's pretty much how we determine our categories. And then once they get to the hospital, and if, let's say we brought them in and they didn't meet any of our categories, once they get to the hospital and they test positive over there, we won't know that unless they contact us. So,
yeah. So you're looking
at definitely an uptick.
Like almost half. You're on a daily. Wow.
Absolutely. So fortunately, our policies are in place, and our firefighters, to include our emergency medical dispatchers, making all the right decisions up there before they even send a unit out, is working. We're very strong with our body substance isolation procedures. We have a designated COVID response unit. We used to have a total of 3 units. We're pretty much down to 1. And it's been working, as well as our decon team that we utilize our other bureaus for.
You're down. You said there were 3 COVID transport units down to 1. Why is that? If you're seeing an uptick.
Yeah. So personnel shortages is the biggest, probably the primary reason. And for a while, we did see a drop in our COVID-19 responses. So we made the decision to turn those units back into regular ambulances. And then still maintain one specific COVID-19 response unit. So the difference is really they're no longer just dedicated to COVID-19 response.
Do you really need if half the runs are COVID response? Do you really need the one? It sounds like all of them are COVID response.
Yeah, so we normally use the actual COVID-19 response unit, which we call Transport 1. when we know definitely that it's a COVID-19 positive case, or there's a high indication that it is. There was a recent run yesterday in the South where, we had a discussion that, the indicators were there for the COVID-19 unit to respond all the way from a Steamboat fire station. So we still keep that in place. But, should it continue to rise, our infection control officer is on top of it with his team. He's got an assistant with him as well as our policy writer, Art Stanley. And once they give that recommendation, then we'll definitely get it back up and running again.
There's a question here, and you may have answered it. Could the chief verify if there is dedicated firehouse for presumably COVID patients needing ambulance service, and if so, which ones? Asking so patients will know an estimated time of their arrival to residence.
I'm sorry, so is this for the patient to go to the fire station? No?
It sounds like it's for GFD to go to the residence. And they're
no, so as first responders, regardless of the call or location, the closest fire station or closest unit will be the first responder. Upon that final assessment, and depending on the severity of the case, the criticality of the patient, then we'll determine whether we do have that opportunity to wait for a dedicated transport unit, the COVID-19 unit, or if they're at a situation where life safety is of an immediate threat or immediate issue, then whatever first response units that we can get there, they will be transported expeditiously.
Mm-hmm. Where is GFD on vaccinations amongst firefighters and personnel?
Well, thank you for that question. So we have 231 total employees. That's firefighters, emergency medical dispatchers, as well as our non-uniform administrative staff and mechanics. Out of that 231, we only have 19 that are unvaccinated. Out of that 19, 9 of them have tested positive already. So presumptively they are immune already, or they carry the antibodies for the C19. But a total of 19 unvaccinated that we have currently. So that works out to about maybe 8% of our employees.
Mm-hmm. So what about the remaining 10? Are they going to be getting vaccinated because the governor has her mandate?
No, at this point, no. Some of them have very strong objections, citing religion as well, and other justifications, and that's as far as I'm concerned, that's well within their right. We do have our backup to that as far as policy is concerned, and that's to test them on a weekly basis as mandated by the earlier executive order, which I'd venture to say we were one of the first ones to implement mandatory testing since we did it since back, I believe it was August 9th, the first week of August, right when that EO came out. So, fortunately we were able to, speak with each of them and convince them of the importance of it and the bigger picture. And they've been, although, they have their strong opinions, they've been willing to work with us and do the weekly testing.
Okay.
And we're doing every part or everything in our power to make it as convenient as possible.
Yeah. You talk about personnel shortages. Is there any word on a new cycle? Or
lots of word as we get every year.
Lots of talk.
What we do know as fact is the list or the announcement was closed January, February timeframe. And since then, the Department of Administration has been working with, I believe National Guard was one of them, and a few other locations to establish a testing site. Considering that we have over 1,000 applicants on a regular basis, that's the average. DOA is challenged with finding a suitable location, and then add to that challenge the COVID-19 policies that we're trying to maintain, right? It is a challenge to get all of those applicants through. So, we're hopeful. We continue to press on Department of Administration. They are the ones who established the list. They do the written test, physical examination, and give the overall points for each candidate before we even get to look at a interview list per se for the amount of fire recruits we might need.
Does it usually take that long? 8 months?
It depends. It's the priority of the government at the time. We know that GPD was very challenged. We know some other agencies also were before us, but it happens. So what we are doing, we're just patiently waiting, and we do know that I believe we might be the priority now to get us going. So we're just on a standby waiting for that list.
Priority now? Aren't you guys like on the front line?
Yeah, we all are. GPD, our brothers in blue are also on the front line. So we're all with the same challenges.
Chief, was it, did it, because I know you guys are always ready, right? But there was this huge lull after the second surge last year, and then for it to just ramp up like that with the concerns about the Delta variant, how fast was that pivot for the department? And was there any time the guys and the men and women in GFD said, oh my God, this is happening again?
Yeah, no, you're all over it, Chris. There was that lull, and that was, as we were talking earlier, that was about the time when we turned our other 2 transport units into regular response units, and then now we're at that point where we need to start having that discussion about picking those units back up. But this is what we do. We're first responders regardless. Again, we established an infection control officer and his team. That's our battalion chief at Choco and Captain Nicholas. And those guys, they go out on a regular basis and constantly fight that complacency with our personnel, going out to all the stations and educating and re-educating, re-emphasizing body substance isolation, personal protective equipment procedures, and then as well as making good assessments as standard operating procedures out there as they respond. So can we turn on a dime? Absolutely. We can definitely stand up those units right away and say it's dedicated to nothing but COVID-19 response and get those personnel who are willing to be on that unit on it. We've done it in the past, and I'm very confident we can continue to do it going forward.
I wanted to go back to shortage of personnel. Has that kind of forced you guys to, or has it forced GFD to shut down like certain fire stations?
Sure. Maybe not fire stations, but capabilities,
okay.
A unit at a time. So I will tell you that just about every single personnel that we have is accruing irregular overtime on a regular basis, unfortunately. And that's how short we are. When you throw in, the obligations such as military or drill weekends, and then the occasional, sometimes it comes in threes, people going off for medical or wanting to take their kids to get them established in college. We try our best to balance our shortage of staffing with their morale and try to give them those little nuggets to keep them motivated. And so it is a challenge. It does ask us to shut down a unit or 2 from time to time. But we do have mitigating procedures. For instance, if we have to shut down a fire truck, then we add an extra duty to the rescue unit to start picking up more of the load, and then we end up sending a different fire truck to that location if it's needed. So fortunately, all our fire stations are trained in the same manner, and we can assist each other one way or the other to accommodate those shortages.
Okay. All right.
We do need personnel for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sound the alarm.
Yep.
Okay.
Right on. Thank you, Chief. You good, Bree?
Unless, Chief, there's any final parting
In closing,
words?
maybe
Yeah.
you want to tell the community to chill out a little bit so you guys catch a break. That's right.
I try not to express too much personal opinion, but COVID-19 is still, it's still a phenomenon that we're all learning about, and it's constantly changing on us. And it's very hard to be a leader and make, on-the-spot decisions. But what's important is to make a decision and then take it from there. What we're seeing is, a decision was made, they put it out, maybe it wasn't liked, and then they changed the decision, and it seems to be getting better, right? So, it's going to happen. Sometimes you just gotta do with what you know. And I've done it many times here in the fire department where we make a decision that might not be so popular, but after listening and hearing others' input, you adjust that decision or that policy, and then all is good from there, and you continue to make it a living document or an ever-changing response to what's going on around us, because it's changing all the time. So that's if I had to send a message out there is to our community is stay strong, stay tuned, educate yourself, and just follow all the recommendations, and if you can, get vaccinated, within respect to your personal feelings towards it. So that's all I can say. But thank you. Stay safe. Well,
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chief.
Chief.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. Let's go to Mosa's next, guys. They got a really killer lamb burger there. I've dropped so many hints about this lamb burger. Have you ever had it, Bree?
I always get the Greek salad.
Yeah, you just salad. Okay. Eat your veggies. But we're coming back. Find out with Mosa's, because I remember we had Mo on last week.
I just want to add, I'm a